Steve Harvey has made millions of dollars pandering bad relationship advice to women. But if you look between the lines, his advice it's not just bad, okay? It's actually damaging your ability to have the kinds of relationships you want. And things like, let me show you a clip here. I think that's the one. Excuse me. Nope. That's the one.
Guess what? A man can't be an independent, standalone person. A man, a heterosexual man, is nothing without a woman. Zero. Nothing. Ask him. Listen to me. Ask any heterosexual man, and he'll tell you, without women, this don't work. This is nothing without you. Do you understand that? That's
All right. So a man is nothing without a woman. All right. Have you guys ever had a woman disrespect you? Have you ever heard girlfriends or women on the internet or women you know make comments about how trash men are or how men are like this and men are like that? And it's all this bad stuff about men, right? Have you ever noticed that underlying view in our culture that basically men aren't shit? All right. Have you heard that before? That's something you've experienced before? Where do you think a lot of that stuff is coming from? If a man is nothing without a woman, why would a man be worthy of any respect? If he's nothing without, if that woman thinks this man I'm dating is nothing without me, if she really believes that, how well is she going to be able to respect that guy or listen to that guy? So this kind of stuff is a pervasive mind virus. And Steve Harvey actively sells it to women, and that goes around the culture and eventually ends up on your date. Okay? It ends up in your relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. He makes millions of dollars, does pretty well, way more than I do. Okay. And I want to say off the bat too, this is not something against Steve Harvey personally. I like the old Steve Harvey, back in it's a long time ago now, but the OG Kings of Comedy, Steve Harvey, stand-up Steve Harvey. All right. Host Steve Harvey and things like Night at the Apollo. I'm cool with this guy in that sense. I don't think he's this bad person. There's a lot of people out there that are good people that just give terrible relationship advice. But what we're dealing with isn't just bad advice. We're dealing with a mind virus. All right, a mind virus. And I will get into why this is so important if you're trying to be happy in 2025 as a man. All right. But yeah, Steve, he makes millions of dollars, but I'm a behavioral expert. All right. I'm a behavioral expert who was trained by the Department of Defense and had academic training in university. And I've used that in counterintelligence and collections to actively take out bad guys out in war zones in the world. I don't have the following. People aren't listening. I mean, you guys are listening, but millions of people are not listening necessarily to my advice. I mean, just to give you an idea, how prevalent this is, right? Just to share again here. I mean, we look at the sidebar, dude. He's got 3.5 million views right now on this. Well, this actual video 1.1 million views. His channel gets pushed out to the algorithms. Look at the right hand side here. 900 million, 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion. Okay. His channel's been out to 4 billion people. This guy makes 6 figures on his YouTube channel alone. So he's very successful. Hats off to him. You know what I mean? Like, that's for on the success part of it. But that's how prevalent this. You realize 1.1 million views on this one video, dude. This is not even his most popular video. Like, not even close. So this guy is extremely popular. 8.2 million subs, 3.5 billion views. There, that's the number. 3.5 billion views. Billion. B with a B on his channel. Subscribed, getting notifications, and he's not shadow banned, guaranteed. He makes too much money to be shadow banned for YouTube. Not to mention, is his viewpoint placates to the type of ideology that YouTube likes, right? Which is kind of feminist ideology. YouTube likes that. YouTube likes feminism. They're going to promote that more. He's not shadow banned. He's not getting canceled like a Fresh and Fit or like a Pearl or somebody like that, right? He's getting out to 3.5 billion people. He's got 8 million subs. Anyways, that's a real important point here, because that's how much, and this is one guy, all right, promoting these ideas. So you have to understand how prevalent these ideas are. This is not a small thing, okay? And mostly women are listening to them, but we'll get to that, all right? But this is a mind virus, and if you don't know what that is, you'll know by the end of the video. Now, here's another clip, all right, where this woman is talking about how she is upset about let's see if that's the right one. No, let's see if this is the right one. I think this is the right one. All right. Yep, here we go. So she's upset about Valentine's Day, and that she's not getting enough interest from the guy that she's seeing during Valentine's Day. But listen to this clip.
I didn't get a card. I didn't get flowers. Meanwhile, my house smells like a garden from all these other dudes. But, you know, yeah, but not from the guy I truly invested myself in. That's not my problem that they're sending me flowers. You know what I'm saying? I was invested in.
There we go. So this woman is got this issue because, you know, she's not getting the interest, right, from the guy that she's not getting. The guy who she's seeing isn't doing enough for her on Valentine's Day. But what Steve Harvey isn't calling out here is that, you know, this is a covert contract. You know, she has multiple men sending her stuff on Valentine's Day. He's not saying to her, like, why do you have multiple guys sending you flowers? Like, I'm sorry, like, she's not an ugly girl, but she's not a supermodel. And even then, those girls are not getting necessarily tons and tons of guys. So he's not challenging it. Well, are you dating a lot of men? Are you talking and entertaining other men? Why are you getting all this interest from guys? And then she expects her boyfriend to dedicate his life to her on Valentine's Day and buy her stuff and do all these things that she thinks he needs to do, right? When she's not really demonstrating, it doesn't seem like she's demonstrating her investment or her commitment when she's talking to multiple other men. So she can talk to multiple men, and this guy's supposed to out-simp all the guys that are simping for her. She can simp collect other men versus maintain a healthy boundary and say, hey, no, thank you, I have a boyfriend, right? She instead of maintaining healthy boundaries, having integrity, not accepting gifts from strangers, right? She's going to collect simps and wondering why this guy isn't the king of simps. And Steve Harvey, silent about that. He has nothing to say about that. All right. And this is a form of a covert contract. I'll show you a worse one here in another clip. But it's just showing up in a different way. And if you don't know what a covert contract is, we're going to cover that as well in this video. So, you know, she expects him to do all of these things, but doesn't express or show her investment that would warrant getting all these things. And this is a problem that's very common with women in 2025. They have all these expectations and they have all these covert contracts. However, they're not willing to show up and be the woman that's deserving of those things that they want to begin with. It's a huge sense of entitlement, right? And Steve Harvey is promoting it because he's not challenging it. And then he goes to talk about how the guy's doing wrong. This is the kind of stuff you get. And this is what gets out to 8 million subscribers, right? This is what gets a million. This is what gets a million views on YouTube. This is what gets you in nationally or even internationally syndicated television shows. Okay. What my information to you that will help you as a man and that will help women out too, because it requires their accountability and to show up and be a better version of themselves to their relationships, which means they'll get better results in their relationships. The information that actually helps people gets suppressed by the algorithms. Wonder why that is. Why do you guys think that is? Put that in the comments. Why you think information like mine that's designed to help you and challenge the social narrative, because the social narrative leads you to bad relationships. Why does that why does that end up that way? And then videos and comments like Steve Harvey is one of the more popular ones, obviously, right? But even smaller creators that take on that kind of a viewpoint and angle end up very quickly with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You know, they very quickly scale their reach. Whereas guys like me, we don't get the reach unless I scream and yell and make a spectacle of myself and make myself look like an asshole with no credibility, railing against women. That would be a way that I could get more engagement. But then I, of course, ruin any authority I have as an expert in this field. Why do you guys think that is? You know, point that in the comments, or put that in the comments. All right. Well, here's another one where a woman is upset and has a covert contract. We'll show this one here. I think this is the right share here. Yeah.
And I read recently that a woman should offer to pay for 50%, half the dinner on the first date. So they said men would definitely say no, but they'll appreciate the effort. Well, the last couple of times they've said yes. So I thought, this backfired. Let me see. My question is, do men really appreciate it? And should women offer to pay for half on the first date?
No, they don't appreciate it, and you shouldn't offer it. It's just, look. You know what?
All right. So here's the problem. Again, he doesn't call her out on this at all. She's in a covert contract, right? It's not about paying for the date. Like, here's the thing, guys. If you're asking a girl out, okay, and you're like, hey, like, let's go grab drinks next week, it makes sense that you'd pick the tab up. You're asking her to come out with you. Now, you're not, it's okay if you pick up the tab. And it's okay if she doesn't offer to pay for half. It's nice if she does, but it's okay if she doesn't. All right? Doesn't make or break or mean that she's a bad or a good person. Offering to pay 50%, clearly from this woman who's really not wanting to pay 50%. She's only offering it as a covert contract, right? Clearly she's not, and we'll get into her if we have time, but clearly she's not necessarily a good relationship partner, right? By offering that. She's really just using a manipulative tactic, trying to make herself look better, right? And has no intention or is going to judge you if you accept her offer, right? So the point is, it's not about paying for dates. That's not the point. All right. If you ask somebody out, it would make sense that you'd pay for that, that occasion. And it's nice if a girl is willing to reciprocate, whether she says offers to pay 50% or whether she pays, for something for you sometime, or whether when she's coming out on a date, she says, hey, do you want me to pick something up? Right. And she buys that thing or whatever. But it's not about money. It's not about paying for stuff. And quite frankly, if you want a submissive woman, that's going to be in your frame and all that stuff. You're going to pay for dates to get, to kind of get there. All right. Especially if you're more financially viable than the woman. But I mean, there's different arrangements. Sometimes women make more money than the guy. She's paying for stuff, whatever. That's not the point. That's like a whole nother topic and discussion. All right. And there's different ways under different structures to maintain sexual polarity, maintain a power dynamic, regardless of whose money you're using. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that this woman has a covert contract. She's only offering, she read somewhere that I should offer to pay 50% for dates because it's going to make me look better. And so then she's going to offer it. And then if a guy goes, sure, why not? Or lets her do it, now she's offended. And now she's, this is bad. This isn't working out. I have to pay. So again, this is an entitled woman trying to, and she might not be a bad person. Like, I'm not like slamming on, I don't know who she is. She might be a great person, but this is coming across as a very entitled way of thinking. All right. Thinking that, okay, this guy accepting my payment means something wrong. There's something wrong with them. It's like, no, don't offer to pay something if you don't want to do it. Don't offer to pay 50% of the date, of the dinner or whatever, and then be mad because he accepted your offer. So that's a covert contract, right? And if you get into covert contracts, we get into it with women who do covert contracts, you're going to be in a nightmare because she's going to have all these expectations and then she's not going to be communicating with you what those expectations are. This is the definition of unhealthy communication. And so you have to train that person, that woman, to have healthy communication in that circumstance because she's not going to have it. You see, her default is to communicate right from the start on a first date in an unhealthy way. Where's Steve Harvey's advice on that? Where's the accountability? No, he just goes on a tirade about how men don't appreciate it. And, and if he's not prepared to pay for dinner, how can he take for a family, take care of a family? This woman, no offense to her. Okay. She's not obese. She's probably an attractive lady for her age. Does she look though in her prime? Like she's about to spit out 3 kids and be a mom? Is that what's going on, Steve Harvey? This woman is advanced in age. She's not having children. She's trying to find a legacy partner. You know what I mean? So this idea that, well, if he can't pay for dinner, then he's not going to be able to take care of a family. Like, no, dude. She's probably already had a family, divorced, and now she's single. You know what I mean? Like, she's an older woman. Like, and so the amount of disconnect is amazing. And how bad the advice is amazing. But anything that would involve any sort of accountability or improvement or change on the woman is completely left out, right? And these covert contracts are unreal, all right? Now, you're probably thinking like, okay, like who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, why do I care about Steve Harvey? Why do I care about this as a man? I don't watch this guy, right? I know who he is. I don't watch him. I don't follow his advice. Why does this matter to me? Look, you're not watching it, right? But I bet you your girl's aunt does, or her mother, or her friend from work, or your girl's friends directly. If your girl doesn't watch this guy or get advice from him, I bet you some YouTube content creator or some author who is giving out advice to women or even to men has heard Steve Harvey's advice or watched the show. You see what I'm saying? He is getting out to over 8 million subscribers. He is YouTube is putting almost 4 billion impressions of his videos in people's news feeds, not to mention being on nationally, syndicated television and all that stuff with this advice, with the things he says. The algorithms and the big companies are pushing this advice out to billions and billions of people, and millions of people are watching it. You are not going to live anywhere outside of the wilderness, okay, with no internet connection. If you're connected to people at anywhere in the world, this information and this ideology is touching you in some way, even if you don't watch it. It's touching women, and it's touching authors. It's touching other people. So you're getting the ideology, whether it's second, third, fifth order effect. Okay. You're getting that ideology, whether your girlfriend watches this directly, or whether it's an aunt, a mom, a grandma, or an aunt's friend, or a coworker's friend who's watching the stuff and then saying and repeating and parroting the same ideas to the other people. And it gets to the same ideology of a man is nothing without a woman, and a man needs to pay for everything. And if a woman offers and a man accepts, then that man's not, worthy of anything. And all of this stuff and this entitled bad advice, right, where women are not being held accountable for their behavior, that is filtering right on to that girl you swiped on, and now you're on a first date with her. She has all that poison in her mind from shit like this by the time you end up on that date. When you're with your girlfriend of 2 or 3 years or something, and you're discussing, next steps, and then she's bringing a toxic framework to the relationship dynamic. She has been infected by all this kind of crap, whether she watched it directly or not. Okay. And so that's the reason we're getting into this. That's why this is important. It is alluding to what we call that mind virus. Now, that said, I'm going to share this little piece for you. It's a good time to do it. All right.
Once there was a caveman named Grok who had eyes for the lovely Neela. Neela was the most beautiful cave woman in the tribe, with her sparkling eyes, infectious laughter, and fat booty. But Grok wasn't the only one smitten by her. All the Chads and Tyrones of the land wanted her too. He tried different ways to attract her, showing off his prowess with a spear, doing favors, bringing gifts, and even serenading her under the moonlit sky. But Neela never seemed to return his affections. She was always kind to Grok, but Grok was only 5'10", and Neela only had eyes for the 6-foot-tall Chads, or so he thought. Determined more than ever, Grok decided to do a pickup artist boot camp in a faraway land. He built up his confidence and learned how to talk to hundreds of cave Stacys, even winning the affection of a few. But when Grok came home to use his newfound skills on Neela, he could sense that same disinterest in her eyes. He could get average Stacys to want to bear his children, but could not win over Neela, or any cave woman as beautiful as she. The pickup artistes told Grok it's a numbers game, and that he had to sleep with thousands of drunk Stacys to get a beauty like Neela. Confused, Grok went to the secret societies of different color pills for advice. But all they could offer were different chants of, just next her bro, and she only bangs Chads, over and over again. If only I could learn real seduction skills to make Neela fall in love with me, Grok thought. Neela went on to live happily ever after, having babies with a man named Og. Og had secretly learned sexpionage skills. Og was 5'5". The problem with pickup courses today is that they rely on the numbers game. You talk to hundreds of girls, and finally, a chick wants to sleep with you. And usually, these aren't the women of your dreams. Sexpionage is my new course that will train you how to actually seduce the women that you want. Not just get dates with women who you aren't that excited about. You will learn deep persuasion skills borrowed from the elite corners of the espionage world that will train you how to persuade anyone and how to seduce anyone, from the woman you just met to your wife or girlfriend. Enrollment opens April 22nd and closes on the 26th. Click the link and don't miss this opportunity. It's the only one you'll get this year.
All right, there's my fun little ad for Sexpionage. It's not April, just so FYI, it's an old ad from last year. So it's not dropping in April. That's not when I'm launching it. I'm probably launching it next week, Friday. We'll see. If not next week, Friday, it'll be sometime the following week. But this is going to launch. Reading signups will open very soon. I said last year, I'm probably only going to have time to do this deep persuasion course once per year. Once this year. It's probably your only opportunity. I'm not saying that as a means to try to get you guys to like have this scarcity mindset and like force you to join it or something, right? It's a good course and it's pretty valuable for those of you guys who did it. And we're rolling out a 2.0 with new material added to, so it's going to be double the material of what we had last year, with a lot of inner game stuff added to it. The inner game stuff's really important because if you're going to go out and persuade somebody, whether it's on a mission, okay, and you're building, you're working with an asset or a target, and you're trying to persuade, that person to do things that might not be in their best interest. That's the government side. Or whether you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this girl from work or from the gym or at the place that I like to go get a drink at. I'm gonna get this girl to get on a date with me and to fall in love with me, like, and to want to be with me and jump into bed with me and all that stuff. Like, if you're going to do that, there's a level of confidence and a level of inner game that you have to have built up, and a level of competence that you have to feel that you have. And if you don't have that inner game in order, none of the outer game skills will work. And I have some massive shortcuts on that inner game stuff that I'm going to be having in this course. And then we're going to do Zoom calls where you can coach me directly. It's not just course material. And we can, get you to where you want to be, answer questions, and role play and practice skill sets. And you'll have assignments where you can go out and practice skill sets, bring it back to a call the next week. And it's pretty cool. And so we're going to do that. And I'm launching it soon. You got to get on the school community because that's how you're going to learn about it. Okay. Like, that's how you'll know when it's launching. And there'll be some financial advantages if you get it over at school, if you enroll. Like, so I'll announce it to my school community people first. All right. And if you did last year's course, it's a benefit for you to do this year's course. All right. I may offer an incentive for you as well if you are joining and you've done last year's course. All right. But the incentive's already there, which is we're just going to, if anything, we're working together one-on-one on these Zoom calls, but having the new material is worth it in and of itself. So that's happening. All right. Whether you're in a relationship already, or whether you're trying to do well in dating, or whether you're trying to do well in sales or scale your business or learn how to negotiate better at the negotiation table for different deals. Like, this is a course that will help you tremendously. So that's the ad. Hopefully you guys like that. And now back to the topic here. So mind virus, why is this so important? All right. I'm going to throw a link in the description here. Another thing you can buy. It's not from me though. This is actually from a book called The Parasitic Mind. All right. By Gadsaad, Gadsaad. If you've never heard of him before, he's a psychologist with an evolutionary psychology and market psychology background. He wrote an excellent book. If you want to read more, I highly recommend you pick it up. I like the guy. His attitude and the way that he presents information is pretty good. No, this is not directly like a relationship book or anything like that, but this applies here. This idea and how he developed the idea of a mind virus is such an important idea, I think. And so I'll share with you the the Paul Benjamin version of it here, but you guys, the book is there, and in the description of the video, I'll have that link there after we close the show. But it's in the what do you call it? It's in the chat right now. Oh, and if you guys have questions, obviously throw them in the chat. A super chat or one of those things or a little star will make sure your question gets answered today while I'm live. So don't forget that. Okay. So the parasitic mind, how infectious ideas are killing common sense is the title of the book. It's important for this topic and what we're talking about with Steve Harvey and all these mainstream relationship gurus, all right, that you're probably coming across on YouTube and listening to. Now understand, Steve Harvey is the biggest personality with a ton of clout and a talented comedian. He really is a talented comedian, okay? And he's reaching millions of people, most of them women. And I know you're not listening to that, but understand, though, this YouTube guy, that's not me necessarily, that's talking about all these people in this YouTube space. Most of these people nowadays are using AI to generate scripts, and they're grifting off of information that's already been developed by guys like Steve Harvey. You understand? So it's not just Steve Harvey, it's like other people as well. And there's not much of a counter narrative to a feminist narrative, because anything that is a counter narrative to feminism gets censored. All right. So, well, we know, because look at my channel. Now I'm trying to fight through it and work with YouTube to fight through it. I'm going to be on other platforms as well, and we'll see. All right. I'm not giving up. I'm frustrated, but I'm not giving up. But that said, once again, the counter narratives that get out there have to be so sensational oftentimes that nobody actually would follow or get advice. That's the idea, at least, right? Is that this person who's screaming on YouTube or saying a crazy thing about women or whatever, an unbalanced, anti-feminist narrative, that actually will get presented, especially if that person does here's the pro and the con opinion. If you do two opposing opinions, that will oftentimes end up going on that will end up not getting censored. But the opinion that fits what's good for men, right? And what's good for relationships in general, because the information I'm presenting is not bad for women. It's good for women too, right? But it's good for men. It's not good for women regardless of men. And if it is harmful to women and good for women, then if it's harmful to men and good for women, then that's fine, right? No. What I'm presenting is good for you as a man. All right. I'm helping men out through coaching. Okay. And that's where the channel is dedicated. Women can come here, learn a lot of stuff, and do better too. Because if you're in a relationship with a woman, yeah, it has to be good for her too, or else you're not going to have a happy, balanced relationship, right? So it makes sense. But the difference is, we're not on here talking about sacrificing your well-being as a man for the sake of some woman, which is what the narrative is from people like Steve Harvey and mainstream narrative, down to even manosphere advice. Understand, some of the manosphere advice, it's either opposing view and contrary, which can lead to unhappiness in women and could lead to not having good relationships for you, and can lead to problems because it's too extreme, and the nuance of it isn't really understood by the people presenting it half the time. So that's the manosphere red pill stuff that some of you guys listen to. That's not good, right? Or it's going to be something that is appealing to the sensibilities of women at your expense. And that's what you guys end up with, and you don't realize it. It sounds good, gets in your mind, and is parasitic. Back to the book. So Godsod is a Canadian evolutionary psychologist and a professor, and he's published this book in 5 years ago, 2020, during the pandemic, right when it started, I think, if I remember. And it explores the concept of idea pathogens or beliefs and ideologies that Dr. Saad argues are detrimental to reason, science, and societal well being. So, some of the key themes are he talks about certain ideas spreading like parasites, infecting an individual, and then getting into societies, and then undermining critical thinking and undermining evidence-based reasoning. He draws from a background of evolutionary psychology, and he argues that humans are susceptible to these mental parasites due to cognitive biases and social pressure. So in my mastermind group for my mastermind clients, and you'll get some of this in my community for free, we talk about deprogramming and programming. So you're going to program yourself to have your own beliefs, right? And you're going to remove yourself from social programming. It's been called unplugging in some ways, and you can use the matrix, as a analogy for it, but that's been overused. So I don't want you to say that and have somebody have the wrong idea. But society is giving you and feeding you these ideas, and some of them are good and some of them are not. You have to be able to program your own mind, which requires unplugging and deprogramming from social conditioning. That's something that mastermind group guys do so that they can build a successful life on their own terms, and they're doing it very well. Okay. And that's why I have that community for you guys, but that's what he's talking about here. All right. And so he identifies examples of idea pathogens more, though, through like political examples. Okay. So he's talking about like postmodernism, radical feminism, identity politics. So he's taking the political angle, talks about political correctness and some of the badness of that, negative parts of that. And he asserts that these ideologies that are socially conditioned and socially pushed on you reject objective truth. And they suppress free speech, which is what I'm dealing with right now. My speech is not free here because I will not get there's an algorithm that stands between me and an audience of people. And no matter how that I have to pass through that algorithm. And that is what is going to dictate how many people I get in front of. And my ideology not fully being congruent with maybe the company of the platform I'm on, I get suppressed. This happens because of these mind viruses, these parasites of the mind and of the ideas. And so instead of having a value of, discourse and conversation where we discuss ideas and we discuss, we are approaching and trying to get towards objective truth, it becomes an identity where you're a good person or a bad person based on ideas that you have, right? And that's a really dangerous road. And he discusses that stuff and how it erodes common sense. And we see that common sense is far less common now in 2025 than it was, I would say, a couple of decades ago. And so I have to agree with his premise in the book 100%. It's a very interesting read. And so, he talks about his experiences as an Lebanese immigrant, fleeing a war, which shaped his appreciation for Western values like liberty and intellectual freedom. And he warns, though, that these values are under threat from idea pathogens that prioritize feelings and emotions and reactions over facts, that they also prioritize groupthink, group identity over individual logical merit and thought. All right. So he defends science and has an evolutionary principles as an antidote to irrationality. So he's urging you in his book to embrace skepticism and intellectual honesty, which I urge you to do as well. He critiques academia as well, which I have also, which is why I left academia. All right. Not that I'm some accomplished academic with several doctorates or anything, but I was definitely on a pathway, and I left that path for combat, and I never looked back because of the problems in academia with this mind virus stuff and these parasitic ideas. And academia is where parasitic ideas take root, and we have to fight against that. You understand? Like, you have to actively fight against this. You have to fight against it in your own life. Okay. And you have to fight against it socially as best as you can, which is why we build social circles. And I recommend you build social circles that are more conducive of free thinking and not being infected by a mind virus. Now, let me give you an example because it sounds crazy what I'm saying, which is why I'm referencing Gad Saad, because, well, he's got a well-written book on the topic. So that's one reason. But the other reason is because, hey, you might look at me like I'm a crazy person. If I say, hey, Steve Harvey's ideas about relationship is causing a mind parasite, like, you're going to be like, what's wrong? Like, did Paul go off the reservations? Did he go conspiracy theory on us? What happened to Paul, right? Like, did the aliens abduct him? What's going on? Let's get the papers declassified, right? Like, that's what's going to happen if I'm just sitting here going, there's a mind virus, guys. You got to fight against the mind virus, right? Like, I look like a crazy person, but you have a very accomplished academic, smart guy who wrote a good book on it. So I'm not just being crazy. Okay. And it's not a crazy idea, because here's how it happens. So looking at the Steve Harvey thing, here's what happens. Some woman, okay, who's, entertained by talk shows and daytime TV, like a lot of women are, nothing wrong with it by itself, right? She maybe went through a bad relationship. She had her own poor social conditioning and ideas, and nobody told her to approach relationships differently than what she learned, and that got her a failed relationship. And so she wants to know what to do about that. She wants answers. So she turns on daytime TV, or she gets an ad, or the marketing system, all right, through Google, YouTube, and big tech, and sends her algorithmically information where she gets Steve Harvey popping up in a YouTube feed, or she gets an ad for his book, or she comes across him on daytime TV, and it's well presented, well produced. So it grabs her attention, and then she hears somebody placating to her ego and to her sensibilities as a woman. That feels good. It feels good to think men are bad, and that's why my relationship didn't work, is because of the guy, and it's because of men out there. And if men could just learn something different, then women would be fine. Women really don't need to change or do anything, right? And so, and there's a counter narrative that says the same thing for men, that women are all broken, and men, you don't need to do anything different, which is actually bullshit too. Okay. So she hears that. She hears a little video, she watches a video or whatever, watches a show, and some woman comes on, and Steve Harvey says, a man is nothing without a woman, and a man can't be anything on his own. And we know this. And when we come up to you, we want something, we got to be willing to pay for it. It just feeds that ego. That's a little bit of a mind virus that just got put in her brain. All right. That's a little virus that just went boop. I can't, my voice can't make a high pitched noise. Boop. Right. It just went right in there, and now it's floating around in the brain. And then as other people say, well, the girl at the bar says, man ain't shit, and her girlfriend talks about her, her relationship problem, and it's all against the guy. And then she's talking about a guy, she's dating, and the guy ghosted her because she was being unattractive, but she's going to be upset about the guy. And it just kind of keeps going and feeding this virus. And the virus gets bigger and bigger in her mind. And then she's regurgitating things based on this idea. The idea gets bigger in her mind because her bad experiences get framed by the idea. You know, her pain, her struggles that she's had that are real, genuine pain and struggles, they feed the virus. And then in turn, she feels healed because of the virus from all these pains and struggles. And it grows into this ideology and this behavior and this sense of entitlement, this lack of accountability. And if she has a daughter or two, what do you think she's telling her daughter? What do you think she's telling her son? Right? Her son, she's creating a little version of a simp without meaning to half the time. She's creating the nice guy that she wishes existed but would never date. You know what I mean? Like, she's creating a version of a man who's not a man when she has a son. And when she has a daughter, she's creating a monster of a woman who's going to be a terrible relationship companion to any guy. Because this virus in her head about how men are and women are and how relationships need to happen is so poisonous, has grown so big in her head, and it grows and grows and grows. And it, you know, it gets confirmed by their ideas and biases. And Plummer just mentioned confirmation bias. Yeah, that's what it's called. And it just continues to grow. And this is how you end up with things like Nazi Germany. You know, I hate to throw in that, but this is how does large populations of people get behind really bad ideas and harm other people? Well, the parasitic mind describes how that happens. It's these small ideas that are bad that become a part of your emotion and a part of your identity. They become the solution to your problems, your trauma, your bad feelings. And then somebody has, you know, that becomes a part of their identity. Losing this bad idea, losing this parasite now becomes an attack to that person's identity, you see, and it just grows inside of them, and then they're spreading it to others. So your girlfriend might not watch Steve Harvey, but this kind of stuff spread to others. And I'm not even blaming Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is just profiting off of it. He's a part of the mind virus and a profiteer of it. He has the mind virus in a male sense, and he's profiteering off of it as well, which, if he's making millions of dollars this way, obviously that's going to fuel the virus more. So there's a lack of critical thinking and a lack of challenging yourself. That's what this channel is about. That's what I'm here to do, because let's face it, relationships aren't happy and men are not doing well, and your mindset is limited. So we're here to critically think and challenge those things. And then on my school community and in coaching programs, we have tools that are there to help you self-develop and help you transform your mind and help you learn new skills so you can approach relationships better. All right. So that's what we're here to do. We're effectively combating this mind virus that people like Steve Harvey are promoting. Okay. Now let me go backwards here. Go into your comments. All right. See a super chat. I appreciate that. I'll get to it. Come on my show sometime. Okay. George Bruno. Yeah, we can. Just shoot me either get my school community, which is free, so it's not a big deal, and you can shoot me a message there. I'll respond faster. Or just shoot me an email, bro, and we can just get on and do stuff if you want. I'm open to it. Cool. Let's see, a lot of plugged in men. Yeah, simp mania. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Well, yeah, so that's part of the mind virus too. And there's an evolutionary wiring there, right? When we're talking about the sisterhood, right? It's like women being historically the weaker of the sexes, physically weaker, okay, and not having the ability to coerce and dominate in the social environment, which was more important when we were in tribes and fighting each other. The ability to coerce and physically dominate was a critical skill, all right, back in the ancient times. Now we have social rules in place. So who maneuvers around socially is going to be who, and economically is going to be who's more powerful, all right, not necessarily the most physically dominant person. So we have a wiring as men to be more physically dominant and to follow that. But our recent, recently, the past few hundred years, it's developed where physical dominance isn't going to matter nearly as much as social, not just dominance, but social maneuvering, I would rather say, right? Building alliances, friendships, maneuvering around socially, and then economics. All right. So being able to require more financial resources. So we're in a different time now, but we still have certain brain wiring, and women have that wiring to protect each other and to be more cooperative versus competitive. That can be good a lot of times, but where it ends up being bad is in promoting a mind virus. So having a bad idea that supports all women, but really removes accountability for them and makes them have more struggles later on in their relationship, they don't see that long-term consequence. They're more inclined to support their girlfriend and support the idea versus challenge the idea. When it's socially, an acceptable idea, they're less likely to challenge it if it means that they might be perceived as not supporting, their fellow women, right? So that is a thing, definitely a thing. Simping is great for kind of, Adam, kind of. It is, but it isn't. It's great for our economy now, but there's other ways of having an economy that's not driven by simps. It's actually, anything can get overblown, and we're getting to a point where it's overblown now, where guys simping and chasing after women is driving all the money, but it's gotten so skewed in that direction that it's now really trying to it's affecting society in such a bad way. Steve Harvey, divorced twice, giving relationship advice. Yeah, you know what though, but I'm not going to slam on his personal record. There's a lot of people who have bad personal records who come away with those experiences with really good insight. The problem is, I don't think he has that good insight. I think he's very lost in how he handles women and how he handles relationships. That's my opinion on that. It's not a degradation of his character at all. It's just commenting on, he just doesn't have good answers here. And I hope that he can challenge that, because being divorced twice in his personal relationships are not going to improve, okay, with his ideology. He's either going to become a prisoner of his own ideology, right? And that's why the cheating happened. He was unfaithful, I'm pretty sure. And the cheating happened because these guys here's the danger. There's a lot of dangers of cheating because it is part of our wiring. So you have to work actively against it. But cheating happens a lot of times because the guys will create an ideology in a prison around themselves. And then the woman is essentially in charge of the prison. She's the warden. And so he has to make her appeal to her emotions, or else nothing happens in the relationship. There is no leadership. She doesn't just do what he thinks is right, even when she disagrees, just to see how things go. And then, if it goes well, okay, cool. If it doesn't, we reevaluate. But she doesn't follow his lead if it doesn't feel right. And that's the problem with most relationships today, is that the woman is not willing to say, okay, you know what? I don't feel good about this. I'm going to express it to you. And you've expressed to me why you're going the direction you're going. I don't like it, but you know what? I'm going to follow your lead anyway. I'm going to do what you say. And I trust you as a man. And if it doesn't work out, I trust that we'll fix it or change it. There's not enough women doing that. They don't go against their own emotions. Their emotions are the reality, and it rules everything. It doesn't have to be that way, by the way, when you have frame. Frame is a concept that removes that situation for you. And I talk about that in coaching. But yeah, he's not going to have frame in his relationship. Guys with frame in their relationships don't have to sneak off and cheat. All right. They get the sexual access the way they want it, or they end the relationship if it can't work out. They're not somebody who has to live a duplicitous, deceptive life. All right. They maybe open the relationship and say, I'm going to have a side girl and you're going to have to deal with it. I'm not saying that's the right answer, by the way, but being open about that is certainly better than being lying about it and cheating and hiding and living a duplicitous life and then getting caught and having all that stuff. That's not good for you as a guy, let alone good for the girl. So guys who have frame don't have to cheat. You understand that? So like he doesn't have frame. And this is very common. They create an ideology, they placate to the woman, but then they're trapped now and they're servants and slaves to this ideology and this woman in this prison of their own making. And then they try to run off and sneak off and escape the prison, and they sleep with some other girl on the road or on a business trip or whatever. That's how that shit happens. If you didn't create a prison for yourself to begin with, and you led your relationships in a healthy way, and you had a good sex life with the person you're with, and you openly talked about this stuff like a couple should communicate, then you wouldn't be running off and having to sneak off, you see? But his ideology directly promotes men to do that, because a man will simp for the girl, I'm nothing without you, all this crap. She ends up running the show. He's now a prisoner. What's a prisoner want to do? Eventually, the prisoner wants to escape the prison. All right? It's a trap. Okay? It's a trap. Going through this. That is true. Right? That is true. The truth is what it is. Professor COVID off speaks the truth here. That is a good question, Tyson. You have to be I don't have a straight answer here to that question. What news is not feminized and worth paying attention to? We talked about this a bit in my last mastermind call with my coaching group, and how to protect your mind, because it's really important. You want to know what's going on in the world, but you want to be aware and you want to be critically thinking. We talked about that in our coaching because it is important. You don't want to just passively consume content. I think that's really the answer there. You want to listen to music or something you like passively if it's on in the background, or if you're listening to something that might not be your worldview, which I recommend, by the way. I recommend you listen to opposing views, but you don't do it passively and let it just pollute your brain, okay? You want to listen to different viewpoints and different things and think critically about it. Actually listen in a way where you're thinking about what the person's saying and challenging it in your head. Even if you believe in it, even if it's something that this is what I believe, you still want to challenge your own beliefs. I think challenging things and not just being a victim of passive listening is really the key here. This is why I recommend mindfulness and meditation, because you're not going to passively listen to noise in the background when you're doing those things. If you want to turn music on and clean the house with mindfulness, for example, you're going to do some weekly cleaning or whatever, versus having your girlfriend or your maid do it, which is another thing, which is great if you can do that. But you're going to do some passive like work or whatever, right? You're going to work on your car or something. You're going to wrench a little bit on your motorcycle or your car and listen to something in the background passively. Listening to a little bit of music in the background, or even doing it in silence and practicing mindfulness and being 100% in the activity is healthy for the mind. And you're protecting your mind from garbage going into it without you really thinking about the garbage. The next thing you know, you're just sort of repeating trash and stuff that really isn't going to help you and really isn't logical, That's pretty funny, actually. AI is the Carlos Mencia of comedy. Indeed. Brendan L., thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for the super, dude. I really appreciate that. Helps the algorithms. And hey, buying me a couple cups of coffee too is always nice. I appreciate that. Thank you. So and that's let's see. All right, I'm not going to share that one. That's pretty funny. Thanks for simping for me. I know we're just joking around here. All right. Cool. Anyways, that covers that. So, yeah. So, I mean, the moral of today's lesson here is, because I don't think we need to go through a bunch of, I mean, maybe at a later time or another live show, I'll break down more of these kinds of videos in a deeper way, right? But the lesson here is there's a counter narrative that's out there, right? Counter to not just what you believe, but counter to healthy relationships. Okay, there's a formula for healthy relationships. We're all discovering more and more about that formula and building on it and making it, more. You kind of have to figure it out for yourself with the person you're with too, but there's universals there. There's principles. There's logical, reasonable things, and there's skill sets you have to have that lead to better relationships, and a lack of those skill sets or the wrong type of thinking leads to worse relationships. There's things that will lead you to having success with women and dating, having an abundance of options of women to date, attracting the right person, getting into a relationship and keeping that woman attracted, and having a happy, healthy relationship for the long term. Those are all skill sets based on an understanding of the right ideas of the sexual marketplace. And then there's a whole bunch of counter narratives out there that are far beyond an influence than little old me and some smaller coaches, creators, psychologists like me who are teaching more of the right stuff. Like, you have to understand, like, we went back through it. Steve Harvey had 8 million subscribers. His reach is 3.5, almost 4 billion with a B people. I'm over here. Maybe if I'm lucky, I get 50 to 100 subscribers a month because I'm suppressed on YouTube, right? I'm a drop in the bucket. The counter narrative to healthy relationships is so vast and big that you can't escape this when you're out there dating. It's going to be there. When you go on a date with somebody, that person is sick. That person has a disease of the mind, right? When I say sick or disease, it's more of an analogy. It's not an actual, plague like the flu or COVID or something, but or STD, right? But when you go out with that woman, she's already infected. Doesn't matter what she says. Doesn't matter how much, how great she seems on the surface. To some degree, that woman is infected by a mind virus. It's just a matter of how big is it. This is why a lot of people, friends and guys I coach, they get in a negative mindset because they're like, man, I'm out there talking. It's like every woman I talk to is like this broken woman. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because they're all being infected by this disease of the mind that promotes, I won't say even like feminist in a political way, but gynocentric ideology that removes accountability, removes self-improvement, removes, the ability to communicate effectively and properly in a relationship, doing things like covert contracts, like expecting things out of a man, but not being the person who deserves the things you expect. Like, for example, keeping guys around and, collecting flowers on Valentine's Day from different men and then being mad because King Simp over here that you've had sex with won't give you more flowers and do more things. That's a crazy covert contract. that is narcissistic in a way. And she just expresses herself narcissistically. Now, I'm not saying she's a clinical narcissist. She might be a great girl, but the mind virus is causing her to have this narcissistic viewpoint, and everybody cheers her on. And Steve Harvey talks about how the man needs to blankety blank. The man isn't simping for you enough. That is that is crazy. That is like billions and billions of views and stuff, because it's not just Steve Harvey, it's other people, other celebrities, it's people with 100,000 subscribers on YouTube to 1 million subscribers on YouTube, people with television shows. And sometimes you'll have certain people who will have a television show who will be right 50% of the time. They'll give good advice 50% of the time. And then the other 50% is mind virus stuff. And you know what's going to kill your relationship? You know what's going to kill you and kill the girl when she's on the date? It's going to be the other 50% part of the mind virus. Even if it's 10%, 20% of the information. You could have, you know, Dr. So-and-so's talk show on YouTube. He's got 1 million people. All right, whatever. I'm not going to call anybody out. We'll just say like that person. All right, wherever that is. He could give out 80% good advice and be well-meaning and be a good person. I have no doubt. I think Steve Harvey's probably a good person. You know, so I'm not really, I kind of feel bad doing videos like this because I'm not trying to come out against him personally. But there's a greater good here we got to address, which is, you know, not promoting a mind virus. Somebody could have 80% good ideas, and then that 20% that's polluted with the mind virus, that's the part that makes that girl show up on that date and be not a grateful woman who's going to be a good choice. You see what I mean? That's that 20% of bad advice infects your wife, infects your significant other of girlfriend of a couple of years, and causes her to die on the wrong hill, we'll say. Make a stand on the wrong stupid idea, and then the next thing you know, you can't reconcile, and it erodes the rest of the relationship, just like a virus does to somebody's health, and then it destroys it, all because of some bad ideas, you see? So you really have to take this seriously. You know what I mean? Safe world theories. Yes, that's another thing I talk about. It's a part of it. It's good. Thank you, Adam. I will have a Pellegrino on you today. I appreciate that. Thank you for the 199 super. That was good. This is a great question, maybe one to close with. Is she willing to understand, and is she's been affected by the mind viruses? No, not off the bat. Most people can't. Most people don't see it. That's the problem of a mind virus. Most people think they're healthy and they're not healthy. Most people are eating unhealthy. For example, just think of diets. Most people eat unhealthy and they don't realize that they're unhealthy. And they don't, but here's the difference. You know, when they do realize it, they realize it when they get an experience of being healthy. So many times, let's think fitness, for example. You got people who are just living out of shape, not good fitness, right? And then they do some of the right things. They get more active, they eat right, and then they're like, holy shit, like, you know, I lost a bunch of weight. I feel better. I feel so good. I didn't know how unhealthy I was. That's what happens to these girls in relationships when they're able to challenge these ideas and go with a different way. Then they experience healthier relationships and they go, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize what I was missing. But in the beginning, no, they don't think they're unhealthy, just like the unhealthy person oftentimes doesn't think it. You know, I hate Brandon. All right. I hate your carnivore diet, bro. I hate it. All right. I think it's nutritionally deficient, but you lost 75 pounds on it. So whatever the fuck me, it worked for you. And congratulations. All right. I would never recommend that. I'd recommend a version of it, maybe with some vegetables and some mild carbohydrates. But you know what, Brandon, it worked for you, dude. And here's the thing. That's it. You're deciding your own frame. You know what I'm saying? You're deciding what your values are and you're choosing your path. Whether it's 100% best or not is not, not that important. Do you know what I'm saying? That's great. That's great for you, man. So I'm proud of you for doing that. But that's you challenge, you decide. That's the whole point of Frame here. I'm not some guru is going to tell you to be like me because I'm somehow special. I'm not fucking special. Okay. I'm going to help you unplug. So in my coaching groups, you develop your way. You figure out your path based on your values, beliefs, and standards. And it tells you, we're going to teach you how to, how to challenge your values, beliefs, standards, and ideas. So you're never really infected by a mind virus like that, and now you can now lead your own life. You have freedom. If you want to do that, I don't recommend the carnivore diet, but if you want to do the carnivore diet, do the carnivore diet. You're a Frame. You lost 75 pounds and you have a 6-pack now. So fuck me. Who am I to say what you should do there? Right. That's okay. That's what I mean. That's good. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a good example. And I'm glad I was helped. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. But that said, you don't realize how bad you feel until you do something different and feel better sometimes. It's hard to recognize that you're sick when you're sick sometimes. When you're talking about a mind virus, these women don't know they're sick. They're just miserable every day. Their relationships are unhappy. They're fighting against bad feelings every day as the normal. That's their normal. This is why they're running to pharmaceuticals, getting medicated for depression, for anxiety. They're struggling because of mind viruses, because of all this placating, bullshit, simping information that props them up and gives them no accountability. Yeah, it might feel good to be told that you're the greatest, you're the best, a man ain't anything without you, all that crap might feel good when you're being told it, but it doesn't feel good when you don't change anything about your life and you're now suffering because of it. The long-term effects are way worse than the pridefulness and feeding the pride of their, and feeding their egos in that moment. Like it is, the long-term effects are way worse. And when you go on a date with that woman, she's been infected. When she talks about an ex and did this and this is, I'm having, whatever, talks about her struggles, talks about some anxiety she has, talks about whatever, even if she's a happy woman and she's whatever. Okay. Maybe she has one too many glasses of wine. Maybe she's, gets a bad attitude about the waitress because the waitress is cute, whatever. All of these bullshit things that they'll do. It's all part of a mind virus that has been infecting them for a long time. And you as a man now have to date that. You're now stuck with that and suffer with that. And you may have some mind virus going on to yourself, but if you're following my stuff and in my group, then you're fighting against that and you're removing mind viruses from your life. All right. But when you're going down with that pathway with this girl, she's already sick. Now, what's the cure? What's the solution? It'd be nice if you could just hand her like Godsad's book, you know what I mean? And she'd read it and be like, yeah, I get it now. That's not how it works though. Unfortunately, I mean, she could definitely read the book. Of course, I'll do whatever to promote him because I think he's got a great book there, and you think he does good work. But really, women are not gonna, in relationships, are not even gonna make the connection between the two. The real cure, the real solution, is seduction in Frame. That's the real answers. You guys want to know the answer? I'm giving you the answer every time I fucking get on YouTube, whether you know it or not. I'm giving you the answer every time we do a coaching call and you're in my mastermind group. I'm giving you answers every week that I post things and answer questions on my community. All right. I'm giving you the answers there. Seduction and Frame. All right. Why? Seduction is persuasiveness on a romantic level. She feels better going with you than doing what she's always done. That's it. What she's done has made her feel worse, even though sometimes, like a drug, it's a temporary fix and then she feels worse. And maybe she feels bad enough to want to do something different. That's helpful, right? Or maybe she hasn't been so polluted and corrupted by a virus that she's somebody you can work with. That's also good too. You want to pick girls who have not been so corrupted by a virus that they're not savable. They're basically dead, right? So that's part of your vetting. You pick a girl who's not so broken from the virus, or you pick a girl who has an awareness of the pain that she's had in her life and is willing to change. Those two things are good. And then you start dating and you have great experiences. She now has high feelings. That's the persuasiveness of seduction. When she's with a guy that she's attracted to and she's having great dates, great experiences, to include good sex with that man, her emotions for that man go up and her bias changes from being polluted by a virus and being negative into positive towards you. And now you're reprogramming by challenging some of the old paradigms she has. You're not necessarily challenging them through discussion. Most of the time, you're doing it just through your behavior. When you treat her differently and behave differently than what the socially conditioned narrative is, she experiences something different. And when those different things feel better, give her better results, she starts to question the old way of thinking. That's the solution. When she has that high emotion for you, she wants to follow you. She'll follow you into battle. She's willing to follow you into battle, and you have the direction and leadership. You now have frame. That's having frame in the relationship, knowing what you want, knowing the direction, and leading it there. She's in the relationship and she benefits from it because she's under your care. You see? Those are the two things that pull somebody away from the mind virus of modern relationships in 2025. That's the only solution. You are not going to find a good woman. All right? Clip that. Let's make that into a short. Clip that and quote it. In 2025, you will not find a good woman. What I mean by that is she's not going to be perfect. She's going to be infected with this virus. You're going to find a woman that is broken and not workable at all. Or you're going to find a woman who's a little bit sick from the virus, but is capable of changing some things and being in a good relationship. And she's going to have to work on herself to get there. And so are you. So the accountability lies in you too. Everybody gets to do work. If you want it, you ought to do fucking work. You want it. You want a peak relationship. You want a great marriage. You want that. You're going to do work. And know who else is doing work? She's doing work too. Not work on fixing you. And you're not working on fixing her either. Work on yourselves so that you develop better skills and better experiences in your relationships. That's how it's done. See you in the community if you're not there already. And stay tuned for Sexpionage. Like I said, it might be next week. Take care.